herb of the day, but it's actually a tree. And it's quite an unusual tree for the family that it's in, because it's a leguminosae. So this is a nitrogen fixing, fertility bringing tree to the land, and it's growing here with no water. It's just its roots have already reached whatever ground level there is. And we're really lucky because not only have we got the fruits, which we're going to collect and make a decoction of, but the flowers are starting to come. Yeah. In fact, some of them are almost past. These are still to open. And you can see the leguminosae structure coming through the flowers now, as well as the leaves. They have these compound leaves, so these are actually individual leaflets, and this is the whole leaf here. So this looks a little bit like a classic legume family or pea family. Actually, it's not legume anymore. It's Fabaceae is the Latin name of the family. Used to be Leguminosae. And then if we look at the flowers, we'll get another close-up of this. Oops. The kind of spiral nature going up the stem looks very much like the way that a red clover would unfold, or with multiple florets, as opposed to the peas that have an individual flower. So these, in a year's time, are going to look like these. It's quite remarkable, isn't it? So, if I may, there's multiple ones here. So each one of these is going to be one of these.
Wow. How?
And oops, they're just ready to be. There was like 5 on that whole that flowering stem or fruiting stem now. So let's put them in our specially made gathering basket that we literally found on our way to the tree because we forgot to bring a basket. Well, I forgot to bring a basket. You didn't know who you were meeting. And the pods also remind me a little bit of fava pods, the broad bean pods that go this colour when they're completely dry, and they can be this long, but they're a bit more bulbous with the bean inside. So we can have a look inside. Let's just see if we can get the bean. There's the bean. If each of you grab one and have a chew of the pod, the beans themselves are very hard.
You got one?
That's the bean.
Chew the pod or the bean?
The pod. That's the bean. And we can see where the slight raised surfaces where the beans are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So we're going to have a little taste. And you can see inside that there's air spaces. So there's air element in this, as well as that sweetness is a sign of earth and water. Both those elements both have sweet. It's delicious.
So good.
So the sweet taste, what are you getting straight away from that? Honey.
It's totally nourishing.
Yeah. The sweet taste grounds you. You know, when you're spaced out and you're too busy and you've forgotten to eat, our knee-jerk reaction is to grab something sweet to give us sustenance and ground us and bring the blood sugar, raise the blood sugar up, because otherwise we're a bit out of it. So the sweet is really that nourishing aspect of the earth, the sweet taste.
It's delicious. Oh my God.
So good.
Have another bit. Chew on that, my dear.
There may be a sweet a bean in that.
And so the food stuff is made how? Grinding the pod.
Well, you
or
can powder.
pasting?
Yeah, you grind the pod to get a powder, because you can get alfaroba powder. Portuguese name is alfaroba, or this is an alfarobeira, a carob tree. Yeah, so you just grind it to get the powder, and then you can use it as flour or make it into a paste to make these chocolate alternatives.
Amazing.
But of course, licorice is also a Leguminaceae family member, but it's the root that's used of that. And licorice has quite a unique structure, which is a glycoside, which is a sugar-based chemical constituent. It's a triterpenoid glycoside that physically resembles the natural cortisol steroid hormone that our adrenals make when we're stressed or when we're needing more energy. So I'm not sure exactly whether that triterpenoid glycoside that is in licorice is in this, but I think that sweetness is really giving you an indication that it can help you with stamina and keep you going. But there's enough air in there to not bog you down, so that you can still function with and have movement.
But it's not like unlike cacao in a way, even the cacao pods are kind of like, they're thicker, right? But they get this color and it's kind of like
But the cacao pods are much thicker, aren't they?
But they have air also, yeah?
They have much more fat. There's a lot of fat, and also the feel-good, love element. Element, thank you, is more to do with theobromine, which is an alkaloid. So that's a different chemical group and class to the sugar-based glycosides, which are really predominant in this Fabaceae family.
Cool.
And also there's a lot of protein. When you think about soybeans and peas and any kind of other bean, they're all Leguminaceae or Fabaceae families, so they're foods for us.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of hormones in them. There's phytosterol and phytoestrogen hormones in red clover, for example. There's the cortisol type hormone in licorice. So there's this, and in goat's rue, which is another member of the family, it mimics the galactagogic hormone to help with milk flow. So there's this really big hormonal and protein, nutritious, rich quality of this Fabaceae or pea family that has a direct benefit for us. They're like a really big family that help us be nourished and keep our balance, because the hormones have to be, there's a homeostasis that's necessary to keep the hormones in balance. So so that family is so important from a kind of, I don't want to say economic, but they're kind of feeding us. They're really critical because they feed us, and they're so abundant. That you plant one pea and you get how many pods that have got how many peas inside them. So it's so abundant that you can even make a living out of it, as well as live yourself, feed yourself, and keep everything in balance. Whereas I think the alkaloid containing plants like the cacao, which has so much more fat in it, this is more protein
Yeah.
than fat. You need that fat to keep you grounded, as the theobromine just takes your consciousness woo, out into the love zone and out into oneness and bliss.
What would you then say is a planet related to the cacao? I'm thinking about
Venus, maybe.
yeah,
Or Jupiter, because Jupiter is all about the oils. It's the oily plants, or the plants that have got very oil-rich seeds come under Jupiter. And Jupiter is all about expanding your consciousness and expanding your being and coming back with the inspiration of the celestial realm. So I think cacao is maybe more like that. But traditionally, in Guatemala anyway, the cacao was only really reserved for the pubescent boys who had to undergo their manhood initiatory ceremonies. And the cacao was just for that, to support them and to celebrate their completion of that. So, well, that's quite Saturnine, isn't it? But to have to cross that threshold of puberty.
yeah. And what do we do with the seeds with the carob?
Well,
We just plant
you
them?
can plant them. The dogs eat this.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah, they eat this and they eat the figs. They see me collecting stuff and it's like, I'm going to give that a go. So you can keep your seeds and have a little bonsai Alfa Romeo in your flat until you find your land or wherever you're going to be.
How old do you think this tree is?
Ooh. Very hard to date back because we can't see the obvious rings, which
Yeah, I didn't
which
mention
is the
something about like the growth rate. And
which is a big indicator. Yeah, but when it's this is
It's not that old. It's not as old. It's not old as. It's not as old as I've seen some of them. From 2 or 3 years old, and that's just no little stem is not much compared to this.
Hmm.
But I've seen.
Growth is exponential.
I mean, look at this crack in the.
Yeah.
Can you see the light on the other side? That's you see that a lot in the really old olive trees, and it must be just the dryness.
Yeah.
You know that they have to, but it's still producing leaves and it's still producing fruit.
Yeah. But there's a lot of offshoots that take all the energy away.
Yeah, these suckers.
Yeah.
There's like
There's a lot of them.
2 here, and then there's this. This is the gum mastix, the pistachia, not pistachio as in nuts. This has a white latex, and it's quite very aromatic leaves, and the gum is like used as a anti-parasitical thing properties. But this sucks up all the water. So when this starts growing at the base of a fruit tree, which of course it's going to be attracted to, because as the fruit's dropping and not being harvested, it's creating a lot of fertility in the soil, and also the roots of the tree are nitrogen fixing. So when you get these gum mastics moving in, like this one behind us, they start sucking up all the water. Excuse me. So, I mean, I think this one is quite old. It's at least the trees that were planted here, those almond and olive, excuse me, and fig, would have been in the 50s at least, at the very least.
Oh yeah, no, I'm getting like it's about 100 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've seen some very old ones here though. Very old.
Yes, and then the olives, as we're going to find out next month, are a whole other kettle of fish when it comes to longevity and ancientness. So.
Yeah. No, it's a wonderful tree.
So, and it's given us shelter from the air, the wind, which is, you know, it's got air element in it, and here's this perfect antipathetic quality of knowing how to manage and deal with the wind, with excess air or something that's gone out of balance, like this windy day. perfect. Okay, so we're going to go back and taste some decoction. Yeah.